Welcome to the channel, guys. I am currently inside of my cat building for my boarding business because we have 24-mile-an-hour winds outside right now. Alright, so if you're watching this video, you are probably getting ready to get solar, maybe, or just thinking about it possibly. So the biggest question when somebody comes to our house and they see them, they ask me how I like them, if they're worth it. And the short answer is yes, I do like them. I do think they're worth it, but it's not really a just cut and dry kind of answer. There's a whole lot of variables that go into it. I would say there's probably not two people on earth who have the same power bill and same usage of electric. So nobody's gonna have the exact same setup and need for supply. So kind of take that into consideration. I'm basically just gonna tell you everything that we did and all of our costs and what we use on a regular basis, and you can kind of compare that to what you have, and hopefully you can use that information to kind of ballpark what it would be for you. Okay, so first of all, we are on a farm. We have our home, which is not a very big home, but we have a home who has to provide for 4 people, and our heat is run off of electric, no gas or wood stove or anything like that. And then we also have my business, which consists of 2 buildings that are both power with heat and air. And then my husband's building, Cody's building for his shop, is humongous and he has power to that. And I also run power in several of our barns for lighting and heat in the winter months for a lot of the animals. So in comparison to, your average Joe living in town, we have a pretty high power bill. So we pull a lot of power, but we live in the state of Illinois. The power company that we had to use, the one that we use provides us power, is Southwestern Electric. It's a cooperative. The company that we used to install and purchase from was Straight Up Solar. And then the loan business that they go through is Clean Energy Credit Union. So it's all going to be different. I mean, if you use a different company, it's probably going to be different pricing. They're probably getting their supplies from a different supplier. It's all up in the air on cost. Now, all that being said, we spent $28,000 on our unit. That boiled down to 2 loans. One loan was a short term, and it was $8,400, and it was due within 18 months of install. And that was completely covered by a rebate. It was a 30% tax credit. And I don't think we even had to touch much of that. It was just like, did it during tax season, and then it was just kind of kicked back to them to pay off. So that was pretty easy. And then the long-term loan is a 12-year loan, and that's a little under $20,000. So it's at I think 3% interest rate. It's not terrible. So those are all the costs that were involved in getting everything installed. Now, that was just for the unit itself and the loans and all that stuff. Now, what we did not notice until after we were way into getting the ball rolling, I think it was already installed but not hooked up, our actual power provider has its own little hiccups. So you should definitely 100% check in with your power provider prior to starting anything. Our power company had a fee of $500 to replace the meter on our pole, because apparently it's some kind of special meter. $500. That was a big ouch. And then the other part was for insurance. We had to have the homeowner's insurance and everything. That all had to be at least a $1 million insurance policy. And that was extremely scary when I heard that, because I thought, oh my gosh, we're not going to get that. There's no way. But surprisingly, we were almost there already because of all of our farmland and stuff. So that was good. But again, if you're just the average Joe in town in a house, you probably don't have that. So that could be a deal breaker for you. So definitely check in with your power company before getting into the solar stuff. Unless, of course, you don't have a power company and you're just strictly, out off grid, then you don't have that problem. The solar array that we chose does not cover our power. It does not produce as much power as we need for a daily basis, and we knew that it did not. It covers maybe a third. And honestly, it was just a cost thing. We didn't want to spend a boatload of money on the array because it's not cheap. There's also the option of adding to it in the future, which is our plan. Now, the total cost, that does not include a battery backup system. We had looked into the batteries and it cost more than the entire system itself. So that kind of was not an option for us. It was a little upsetting because that's kind of the main thing that I wanted, but it wasn't feasible. We don't have that kind of money to just throw around. So our system only works when the sun's up and it's not storing it anywhere. One good extra about it though, if the power does go out during sunshine time, there is actually an outlet on the unit that you can flip on, and if the grid goes out and you need power of some sort and it's daytime. Okay, so this is really confusing. I still don't fully understand it. Some companies are better than others at this, but with our company, our power provider, they have, I believe it's called over-generation pay, which means if your panels produce more power than you needed to use, the power gets sent back to the power company through the grid, and then you're supposed to be paid back for it because you created the power and it was yours. Apparently our power company has like a cap or something. If you go too far over or something, you're not getting paid for it, is kind of how I understand it. I've heard that Ameren has a much better payback program than our company. Anyways, that's all going to be different with every power company, so that's just something to look at also as far as the size of your system goes. So if we had a big giant setup and it was producing tons and tons of power that we didn't need, then we would be losing out because we would be giving that back to the power company and they wouldn't be paying us for it. Okay, so I'm going to jump into actual usage in comparison over the past few years prior to the panels being installed and after. I tried to look up on a yearly basis, but the computer system wasn't letting me do that. It was only doing like 100 days at a time. So I went from January 1st to July 1st of 2019, which is before the panels were installed. It says on average we used 161 kilowatts an hour on a daily basis. That was the average. And the average temperature daily was 48 degrees. That was the average. So 161 kilowatts an hour in 2019. Now jump to 2021, last year, after the panels were installed, we used 101 kilowatts per hour. And the average temperature also was 48 degrees. So same exact weather situation, and it was approximately 60 kilowatts an hour less. You can kind of ballpark that the panels are producing around 60 kilowatts an hour per day. What does that break down to cost-wise? Well, that's where things get even more hard to understand because the power rates are going to go up each year, which is another reason why I think the unit is worth it, because every year for the next 12 years while we're paying on this loan, that rate is not going up. We're paying the same amount on our loan, $160 every month for the next 12 years. And meanwhile, the power rate is probably going to go up each year because everything does. Inflation is great. So I don't know how much of a difference this makes as far as cost goes, but there are different options as far as installing them and where to install them. We chose to have ours placed on the ground, and the other option was to put them on a roof. We have probably 3 buildings that they could have gone onto, but it came down to I just didn't want to put holes on my roof, and it's a lot easier to reach them if they're on the ground. So that's just kind of personal preference as to why we did that. We could have gone either direction. If you have a yard full of trees or not a whole lot of land, maybe a roof is your only option. But whatever company you choose to go with, I'm sure they'll talk you through all of that. And with them being on the ground, they are a lot easier to kind of keep an eye on. You can see if anything breaks or if it needs cleaned, any of that kind of stuff, which ours have not needed any maintenance of that kind. We're going on 2 years and they haven't needed anything other than cleaning. So that just involves a hose. I just kind of check on them once a week or so. I'm out there feeding and watering our pony, and I have the hose with me anyways. The birds will kind of take a liking to them and they'll sit across the top and end up pooping all over them. So I have to hose them off because of that pretty often. Otherwise, they stay fairly clean on their own. During the fall, when the fields are being harvested, they'll get a little dusty. But again, I just take the hose to them and it cleans them right off. So there's not really a whole lot of maintenance to do with them. So hopefully all of that information helps you make a decision on what you're thinking about doing with solar. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave them in the comments if I missed something or you had something else you wanted explained a little further. But I think I covered pretty much everything that I know. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching and have a great day.